Hello, welcome back to the Scroll Ensemble Classical Music Improvisation channel. I'm Robert. We continue with our challenge, trying to play this instrument, trying to improvise potpourri, and trying to make variations, preludes, and bridges. Today I'm going to look at a Fantasia by Mr. Eyck on O Tannenbaum, and how this can help me set up for my first real potpourri. Yesterday I thought I would have time for my challenge as well, but I didn't. There was a student concert and I was teaching all day, and I did a massive presentation on the Cartella Musicale by Banchieri, which reminded me, if you are interested in variations or ornamentation in the 17th century, I also put on a free challenge for people to learn every day one ornament. I think there's 12 or 11 lessons or something like that, so you can go here to check that out. So here's a little overview of the Fantasia by Eyck. In its basic form, it's very close to potpourri already. We have a prelude and then a variation, and basically a potpourri would just have more different pieces, more variations. The prelude also seems to be quite typical, where we have it based on material from an actual melody, in this case of course the melody. In a potpourri sometimes it's a separate melody, or it's indeed the next melody that we get variations on. Inside this prelude we get the actual melody also, but in a variation in 4 with some little extra rhythmical nice things. We have a little bridge or outro moving on to the real melody, which is indeed unornamented, even though supposedly by then the audience has grasped that that is the melody. Still we get an integral version of the melody, which is interesting. Then in this case there's a little bridge to the variation, which is also doesn't always happen, but it's a nice idea. Also buys a bit of time potentially. One variation, which is enough. Czerny says 1 to 3 variations will do, and the fact that you can vary in the amount of variations is also very helpful, you know, when you're gauging the audience's response to the specific melody, and also inside yourself. Can I do still some more interesting things or not? You can just move on after one variation already. So, and then this process repeats itself for new melodies, but the principle itself includes all the elements that you need for a potpourri. So here is our little prelude. We have some fantastic ideas in it. The basic melody is of course O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum, and here we see that melody but in 4 rather than in the original 3. It's maybe a little bit boring to just do that whole melody then in 4. So we get a little variation of the sort of B part. Then when the A part comes back, it's actually the same, just unornamented. Except now it's forte and with accents. So that reminds us also we can always build our variations based on simple parameters as well. Then we have an outro, probably based on this GD idea. Dum bum badum. Just a little coda. That same idea, the D, G, the 4th up, is also the basis for a little Fantasia on this motive. So we first get this 4th, O Tannenbaum, which kind of dissolves going down, using some of the rhythms and ideas perhaps of the rest of the melody. It's hard to say whether that's really true or just what I want to see. Then we get again our 4th, O Tannenbaum, but now with 8th notes, still dissolving going down. Now we get the same but going a 5th up to the dominant, so we get a much more tension. Then again this dissolving downwards with that same rhythm as in the opening, but of course we have our building up. And then we get another 4th, but in between tom, bum, the D and the G is a whole scale, so we're going up now 4th and an octave to kind of finalize this little firework introduction. Then we get the differently made melody and the outro. And I think this has basically all the elements that a prelude would have. So it's interesting to see this kind of in the microcosmos and in such kind of simple procedures. So for my challenge I will use the Christmas song Jingle Bells staying close to the idea, and also kind of trying to still use melodies that I already know, so that I can first practice applying all these things in the moment to something that is at least already in the head. First we'll start with a little Fantasia on motivic material. Very obvious would be to use the yum bum bum jingle bells idea. Something dramatic like that, or maybe something like this. But maybe it's also interesting to use the B part. We often get quite a different opening from the actual piece, so in minor can also be possible. Then we might have the melody, maybe in 3 instead of in 4 in the usual. And then maybe some kind of variation. As I said before, the variation is pretty straightforward. We start off with the melody in full, even though we've kind of already heard it in the prelude. Then we get a little bridge, using some of the typical rhythms and ideas, but really just staying around the kind of 5, the dominant. And then we get another variation with kind of chordal 16ths, so the twice faster idea that we looked at the beginning. And finally we get a little coda using some of those ideas from the final variation as an outro. So it's not very complicated and quite short. I hope you enjoyed this video and had a little look into our first step into the potpourri realm. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join, all of those things, and try some variations on a Christmas song yourself.